The Detroit Lions' three-time defensive captain sitting out for voluntary workouts is not a struggle that many Detroit Lions fans saw coming this year. Alex Anzalone has been the heartblood and the heartbeat of the Detroit Lions defense over the past 4 years. Whether the defense has been elite, average, or just straight up terrible, Alex Anzalone has been the consistent starter in the middle. If the Detroit Lions pass rush can't get home, Alex Anzalone will come off a blitz and make a big play. If the Detroit Lions need to get off the field through coverage and the secondary isn't getting it done, Alex Anzalone has been routinely great over the middle in coverage throughout his time in Detroit. He has been the one consistent piece of this defense that every weekend, every Sunday, the Detroit Lions know that they can rely on number 34. And that was no more evident than a season ago when the Detroit Lions, through the first 11 weeks of the season, were one of the best defenses in football, allowing less than 20 points per game at one point in time. And then Alex Anzalone got hurt. He left the NFL season for nearly 8 entire weeks through the back half of the NFL season, and the Detroit Lions went from being one of the most prolific and suffocating defenses in football to allowing 30 points per game in the last 5 weeks of the season before facing Minnesota for the NFC crown and the number 1 seed. Coincidentally, Alex Anzalone came back for that game, and they went from allowing 30 points per game in the 5 games prior to just 9 points, not a single touchdown allowed when Alex Anzalone returned. He has been one of the best, most consistent players in this Detroit Lions defense over the last few years, and he has earned a new contract. However, this offseason, there has been a bit of drama. He has not attended voluntary workouts. He's been highly critical of both the team and the NFL on social medias, but despite that, new defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard says that there is nothing to be concerned about and that he personally has zero concern for Alex Anzalone's being ready to play come season time and their ability to get a deal done before week 1 of the NFL season. When Alex Anzalone came over to Detroit in 2021, he was a rotational player. He played 4 seasons with New Orleans Saints as a former third-round selection, where he totaled just 123 tackles, 8 TFLs, 4 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 3 passes defended, and an interception on his career. He was far from a bad football player, but played very much in the mold of a Jalen Reeves Maven. Not a consistent starter on the defense, but somebody that could come into blitz, somebody that could come in a pinch, somebody that you could feel comfortable relying on in certain situations, but not a player you'd want starting every single game. Despite that, the Detroit Lions took a chance on him. With the connection with both Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn from New Orleans, they took a former third-round pick, a backup role player from New Orleans, and turned him into a superstar with the Detroit Lions. Since joining Detroit in 2021, Alex Anzalone has been incredible. A 3-time team captain on the defensive side of the ball, has started every single game he's been healthy for with the Detroit Lions, and in the same time frame that he was with New Orleans, he has nearly 4 times the amount of tackles, 22 TFLs, 6.5 sacks, a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and 24 passes defended. He has been not only a starting linebacker, but he has been a star linebacker in the NFL. And he, as I mentioned, has been the consistent threat on the defensive side of the ball for the Lions. When Aiden Hutchinson went down, when Carlton Davis was gone, when the entire linebacking core around him was in shambles, Alex Anzalone came back and turned a really struggling defense into a unit that held Minnesota to just 9 points. When Alex Anzalone was healthy, they were one of the most suffocating defenses in football, even after Hutchinson went down, even when Brian Brandt started playing poorly, even if Kirby Joseph wasn't forcing the interception, even if Terrion Arnold was having penalty issues. The consistent playmaker was Alex Anzalone, and he was always there to right the ship until he was not. His biggest strengths are his leadership. He's productive, he's got coverage, he's got range, he's got instincts, he's got toughness, and he is the best culture fit that the Detroit Lions could have possibly asked for in that 2021 free agency class. A class that often gets forgotten and often gets overlooked, a class that never really had a big name in it, turned out to produce one of the most important players in Detroit Lions franchise history. With that being said, Alex Anzalone did miss time in 2024. He broke his forearm in week 11 and didn't return until week 18. In week 18, his first game back, not completely healed, he had 7 tackles and a quarterback hit. In turn, the Detroit Lions allowed just 9 points to the Minnesota Vikings and won the NFC North, were crowned as the #1 seed in the NFC playoff race, and were granted a bye week going into the playoffs. Despite the Detroit Lions defense being very poor in that playoff game, Alex Anzalone himself had quite a good game, 13 tackles and 2 tackles for loss, and when healthy this season, he was 9-1 with the Detroit Lions, with that only loss in the regular season being to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Lions defense is simply better with Alex Anzalone at the helm, and he is now looking to be compensated for that. He knows his role in this defense. He knows the importance of himself in this defense, and he knows that Brad Holmes is a fan of paying homegrown talent. And even though he wasn't drafted by Brad Holmes, even though he wasn't drafted by the Detroit Lions, he is a homegrown talent. They plucked him out of free agency. They plucked him from the depth chart. They grabbed him from being a backup rotational role-playing linebacker and turned him into a true star at the NFL level. Kelvin Shepherd had a couple of quotes, of course, the first one being that he's not concerned in the slightest, has zero concern that Anzalone will be ready for football season and be ready to play come week 1. One quote that I find really interesting from this whole situation is from the newly appointed defensive coordinator, Kelvin Shepherd, a coach that has worked with Alex Anzalone since the day he stepped foot in Detroit as the linebackers coach over the last several seasons. He has worked more closely than Alex Anzalone than any coach on the staff, and if anybody's going to know where his head is at, it would be Kelvin Shepherd. And he said, as I quote, "I have zero concern. That player is a leader here, and he's been a leader here. He's been an intricate piece in building the culture that's here, and I'm going to pay the respect that he's earned and that he is due. And whatever his private situations are, I'll let Alex Anzalone address those when he's face to face with you." That doesn't sound like a coach that's worried about his player. That doesn't sound like a coach who's worried about his team captain not showing up. That doesn't sound like a situation that the Detroit Lions are particularly concerned with. Alex Anzalone has earned a new contract. Alex Anzalone has worked for a new contract, and there's no player on the roster that deserves it more than him. From the sounds of it, it sounds like the teams are on good terms. It sounds like both sides are at a really good place negotiating wise. And even though there hasn't been a figure put on the table, I know that Alex Anzalone wants to get a deal done with Detroit. I know Detroit wants to get a deal done with Alex Anzalone. And if we know anything about Brad Holmes and his contract disputes, we know he is not one to err on the side of caution. He is not one to be cheap. He is not one to really, take money away from his players. If you've earned a spot on this roster, if you've earned a role in this football team, you are going to be paid accordingly. And Alex Anzalone is looking to get paid. He is one of the best players the Detroit Lions have to offer, and he often gets overlooked, right? He still has a year left on his deal, so many people haven't even thought about it yet. And when they think about future contracts, they think about Brian Branch, they think about Aiden Hutchinson, they think about Jameson Williams, they think about Sam Laporta, Jack Campbell, Jameer Gibbs, and all of these really good young players. But the one that keeps them all together, the one that continuously plays at the highest level of professional football, is Alex Anzalone, because he is the leader. He is the team captain. He is the heartbeat. And if the Detroit Lions end up losing him, it's going to be the biggest loss that you could possibly imagine. There are maybe 3 or 4 players on the defense that are more important than Alex Anzalone, that being Aiden Hutchinson, potentially Kirby Joseph. And after that, I don't think you could name another one. Alex Anzalone is a leader like very few players in the NFL. He is productive like very few players in the NFL. He is the best culture fit you could have ever possibly imagined out of free agency. And he is a player that is going to get paid sooner rather than later. So with that being said, let me know down in the comments below your opinions on this contract dispute. Do you believe Alex Anzalone has a case to be sitting out of these voluntary workouts to make a statement? Do you believe that a deal will get done in the future? Or do you think that Alex Anzalone is on his way out? With guys like Jack Campbell, Malcolm Rodriguez, and some really good deep linebacking cores behind him, could Alex Anzalone be on his way out of Detroit? That is a real concern for a lot of Lions fans. Personally, I don't see it happening. I don't think they let that type of player and that meaningful of a player walk out the door without a fight. In my opinion, this is a little bit overblown, but I think the coaches are right. I think the coaches are telling you the truth in this instance. I don't think there's room for concern. I think Alex Anzalone knows what he's doing. I think the coaches know what they're doing. And yeah, Anzalone doesn't want to get hurt in voluntary workouts. We've seen a couple of players already this offseason go down in voluntary workouts, whether it be lifting, whether it be on the field drills. Sometimes something just doesn't plant right. Sometimes your knee gives out. Sometimes your ankle gives out. We saw last season as Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had that scare in the preseason without any contact in the drill at all. Alex Anzalone doesn't want to give the Lions a reason not to give him that contract. He doesn't want to take unnecessary risks and put his future in jeopardy. When training camp comes around, Alex Anzalone will be there. When OTAs come around, Alex Anzalone will likely be there. He is a team leader. He is a team-first type of guy, and he is a player that the Lions will keep in Detroit for a very, very long time. With all of that being said, like I said, let me know down in the comments below your opinions on this situation. I'd love to hear them. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions!